change, I think that adds attention for your people to be able to look and say, you know what, this isn't right.
Right.
This should, as you're seeing an awakening from being able to view that statue. I mean,
Right.
do we agree?
I agree. I think both
Okay.
need to happen. I think a big
Which
part of
one would need to happen first, though? My argument at this point is keeping of the statues. I've explained to you why at this juncture. What, in your opinion, would need it? Would it be more needful to tear down the statue before you speak of substance, or would it be to do substance before the tearing down of the statue?
I believe we're at a particular juncture where these particular monuments need to be taken down first. And I say that because a lot of the arguments that are used that removing these is removing history. Now, I did some research, and I assumed that these statues that are being taken down are being housed in museums to preserve history. They're not. As you said, no, they're not being thrown into the sea. They're being given to private donors.
Right, so it continues. The supremacy is continuing on
the 20
some
foot,
level still yet.
The 20-foot statue of Robert E. Lee on horseback from Texas is still in Texas, but instead of being at a courtyard, it's now at a day spa.
So pause you with that, with what my brother just said. You heard it here first. The fact is that literally this is more symbolism than it will ever be substantive, because though they're removing the statue out of the marketplace, they're still putting it at privately owned businesses.
Correct.
That's why I say that we need to deal with the substantive change. If I deal with the substance, I'm not any more worried about your statue regardless.
Right.
There's a whole reparations that needs to be paid for over 50 million African Americans in the border now, that we could make a call to make that payment. You can keep your damn statues up for all I care. You give me my 300,000, and I can work with that.
Right.
It's about making things, I guess, and not to take from your time, it's about balancing things, because the fact is simply this, and I'll say this regardless of how you feel about it, whoever's watching, Caucasian, black, whomever. The fact is that though you say that those statues, that is still a history.
Right.
That is still a history lesson in our time. The fact is that our history as a whole hasn't always been the greatest. Our history as a whole, it's been all right sometimes. The fact is slavery was terrible. It was not an underpaid worker situation. It was simply you incarcerated us and brought us into your borders to build up. The fact is that every day we have to see that statue as a reminder, but at the end of the day, the fact is that that's still part of our history as an African in America, to be able to teach that we can still overcome. That song, to me personally, when we sing "We Shall Overcome," as we've been singing for over 50 years now, much more powerful is that when you're singing that amidst a statue that has been erected to otherwise bring you down? The fact is that whether there's a statue or whether not, we must go forward. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
And
I'll go. Oh, you're fine. And I'll make the point of during the first stint of the Iraq War, there was a very pivotal point in media presence, I'll say that, where a very small, comparatively, statue of Saddam Hussein was pulled down. Now, this was done in an attempt to show that the tyranny was falling.
Okay.
If you go to these same areas in Iraq today, they are war-driven. The people have no fiscal income. It's terrible. So
the removing of a statue didn't change anything.
Not in that particular instance, but, and this is part of the problem, when we say things like white supremacy, in my head I think of a Klansman, a swastika, some very extreme symbol of hate. During the research portion of this, I've come to the conclusion it's not necessarily that. It's 90-year-old white senators draping themselves in Africa colors for a PR press.
That's called appropriation, and I didn't agree with that.
Correct.
Nancy Pelosi and the whole House should have been dealt with when they did that. You don't have a right to appropriate my culture. You've already brought me here and forced me to work. Why should you still be able to continue to appropriate over and over? It's time for substantive change. Beyond removing of a statue, you need to do what's right.
And just to kind of close it in here, just another part of the issue in regards to that, when we think of the word supremacy, during a lot of the riots are done at this point, so a lot of rebuilding is taking place, if you would think. There are a lot of viral videos coming out of white people posing with tools to take candid photos for their social media, and then handing it back to the Latin American
I've seen
worker.
that happen.
This is happening a lot, and this is part of the larger issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost more, I'll just say it, it's almost more racist to go out of your way to try and tell somebody, "Ooh, I'd have voted for Obama a third time," or "Oh, I'm so woke," and these sort of things. Because what people are doing in that instance is they're not actually concerned in genuine change. They're not actually concerned in helping the oppressed. They're interested in elevating themselves.
It's almost as if when Malcolm, the great minister, Malcolm X, late great, he said that the worst was a white liberal. He said that the white liberal would actually, I guess, in a way, they would put their arm around you. They would act to be your friend, knowing that you're the lamb chop. Am I correct in what you're saying with that? The disingenuous image that's being projected as I stand with that owner taking a picture, is it not the same psychology as an erected structure?
That's part of what you're
So
saying.
would you be an advocate for removing all cameras out of everybody's hands as well? I mean, if we're going to destroy images, let's destroy any capability of any type of image. Would you agree with that?
I'm saying if you're taking a photo and in your mind and in your heart is some kind of a supremacist attitude, it does need to
Is
be
that not a
removed.
statue in figuratively speaking, to a degree?
In a metaphoric degree,
Mhm.
I absolutely agree. My biggest point when it comes to the literal removal of these statues, first and foremost, is because of the groups of people that it's emboldening. Now, I'm not talking about your uncle sitting at the dinner table saying it's heritage, not hate,
Right.
who may be just a little, I'm talking about extremists. I'm talking about alt-right leaders like Richard Spencer. Talking about people who are responsible for deaths in Charlottesburg. What's happening is these statues, to a large point, now whether it should be effective or not, have emboldened a lot of people in this country. Now, and we're not even talking about extremists. You can go, just because a lot of people say, "Oh, it was 400 years ago, get over it."
Right.
We can go back to 1951. We can look at the state senator from Mississippi saying, and encouraging people that you got to keep those black folks away from the polls. And if you don't he's saying,
wasn't that Wallace? What was his
it's
name?
like Bilbo or something weird.
Okay.
Dude. Wallace was the governor.
Wallace was the governor.
Wallace was the governor, but everybody knows the senator at the time is saying, keep those black folks away from those polls. If you don't know what that means, you're a dummy.
Okay.
And he further explained, he said, you do it the night before.
I've got you.
These trends are almost more adherent to certain people saying, well, it doesn't matter if I vote anyway. Which, that's another debate for another time. But,
Right.
but the effect, going all the way back to 1894, I think is still in play today.
So I have a question, and I know you said another debate for another time. I guess you're with the removal of statues.
Yes.
I guess my question would be this, and this is not to cause offense for anyone. I'm going to parenthetically insert the fact that I served my country for 8 years as a Army Ranger / Spec Ops operative. I have over 1,200 fire missions and beyond. So when I ask this question, don't take this personal. If you do, turn me off. You're for removal of statues.
Yes.
I guess my question would be, because you said that the statue was something that was emboldening a certain segment of people to almost ostracize another segment of people, correct? So would you be for the removal of the 911 statue? And the reason I say that is because when that happened and they erected that, there was a whole section of Arab Americans that now other people were able to, I guess, subvert them to almost the same type of bigotry, if you will. So if you're for removing of a statue, are you for the removal of the 911 statue? That's just an honest question.
No, and I'll explain my position. The reason I'm not for the removal of the 9/11 memoriam statue in question is because of intent.
But would it not be the same? It's it's the same banner. It's a nationalism banner that was taken to be otherwise used against the people group.
Shouldn't have happened.
Because I'm not against nationalism.
Right.
I'm not at all. By
Right.
no means with that.
My position on that would specifically be that whenever that happened, the tragedy that it was. Whenever that happened, and all of a sudden, people that are brown, that are from the Middle East, you start getting these.
They were subjected to.
That's not okay, and that shouldn't have happened.
So why wouldn't you be? I guess my question would be, if you're for the removal of General E. Lee, and you just said out of your own mouth that it shouldn't have happened with the people of brown descent and Arab Americans, wouldn't you have to almost be all right with the removal of that monument as well, would be my question.
No, because the 9/11 statue was not put there to inflame the passions regarding Muslims. The 9/11 statue was put there to say these people were innocently killed. What happens with these fringe groups is they will take tragedies and they will find someone to blame. Much like even the war effort. None of these hijackers were from Iraq who went to Iraq.
Right.
So what happens is, and these are generalizations, and that those still happen today.
Because I was going to say, wouldn't you say that monument, the 911, inflamed the passion of patriots? Not everybody considers himself a patriot.
Absolutely.
I serve my country, but ultimately, I'm not going to make that comment for the sake of time. Some people may be mad. I identify, but to a degree, I have an issue with that term patriot as well, because that emboldens a whole other mind thought of that you have nothing to offer to the greater good as well.
Part of the issue, I believe, and people know me, I'm a latte sipping lefty, always have been.
I got you.
My issue is anytime that we're taking a specific group and we are generalizing them to a race.
Right.
And it's with anything, and it becomes in contemporary culture. A lot of people will call today's politicking, if you will, too far, flamboyant, what have you. We can take something as innocent as a Jeff Dunham stand-up with the puppets. He's got the terrorist who was dead puppet.
Okay.
In that culture, it's very important to wear the appropriate garb.
Yes, it is.
With a comedian mocking that culture in a specific regard, that did well because of perceived patriotism and because of ignorance. People did not think, oh, well, that's probably really offensive to, and Islam is the largest religion in the world. There are more Muslims than almost anybody else in the world, statistically, when it comes to religion.
Right.
Now, as Americans, a lot of times we don't think of these things because we've had the ability to not think of these things.
We've had certain freedoms and
correct
opportunity to not have to consider.
Absolutely.
That's why my argument is for the statue. With the statue still there, you have to consider that, some changes need to be made. Would you agree with me on that?
Absolutely, 1,000%. Think of it this way. Most people don't even think about Iraq anymore. There's almost 10 to 15 kids every 2 days that are still killed. Women, children, old people, anybody that are attacked and killed by drone strikes.
All right.
This is just something we don't think about.
And you know what? We're going to end it right there. We're going to let you guys think on who you feel won this debate. I want to thank my brother for being on with me today. He'll be back on next week. If you guys want to find out what the particular subject is, either go to Mr. Tim Burks' Facebook or to my Facebook, because I'm not going to give you that. I'm going to have to let you do a little bit of work on your own. But like I said, comment below on how you feel the argument went, whether you're going for my brother or whether you're going for me. I tell you what, we love you guys. We're out of here. God bless you. And I want to encourage you to stay woke or stay oppressed. This is Henry Carson III. I'm out.
Peace out. I think we did it.
And I didn't want to override it. We gave them stuff to think about.
Oh, we did good.